What's up? What's up? I'm doing the market recap. Today is August 26th, 2025. So interesting session last night. I had one trade on this Euro CAD, which was one of my primary pairs, and it was my preferred pair out of this bunch. So I was primarily focused on Euro pairs, and it was the number one pair I wanted to trade out of the Euro group. Had a pullback, a rather fast pullback. Some news came out that kind of drove price up pretty quickly. This was like within the first couple hours of Asia. So 30-second time frame. This entry kind of occurred both on your 30-second and your 2-minute, but you have price kind of explode. You have this trend of price. It starts to slow, kind of level out, and then a break of trend. So it broke this trend line, which I think could be your first entry. I chose to wait for a break of the trend line and the break of the 5-minute EMA. So I entered there on a 30-second time frame. It also kind of lined up with a 2-minute break of that trend at the same time. And then price, from a 10-minute perspective, kind of came down, bounced the 10-minute EMA and went up, and then eventually broke the 10-minute EMA. So I was able to do P1 and then clip the high, eliminating most risk. I mean, probably still have about 0.4 or so risk still on the table. And then price just went sideways for a few hours, and I had a decision to make. Per my management rules, I can execute a fail-safe exit if price breaks below the 10-minute EMA, price holds below the 10-minute A for a little while, and eventually breaks back above it. And that's what happened here. So price eventually broke back above the 10-minute A and 10-minute 50 and closed with a 10-minute candle above that 50, which enters the criteria for me to be able to use a fail-safe exit. So I chose to use that fail-safe exit at that time, because my thought here was that, all right, if it closes here and it continues upwards, it's likely going to tap me out. And if it does tap me out, because at that point the 1 hour EMAs and whatnot, they weren't below my stop where I had clipped this high. The only thing I really had protecting me was this high on your 10-minute, 2-minute, and then that high. So I had two different highs protecting me, but in a horizontal support level and maybe the pivot, but I didn't really have EMAs helping me out. So, and more so than not, price really reacts to EMAs than other stuff, or highs. Either way, I started to get uncomfortable with this trade at this point. I've been in it for a while. When I enter a trade, I would prefer it to kind of drop a good bit and then give me some more kind of lenience. But at this point, it's only running about half a 0.5 R or so profit in this area and broke back above it. So I chose to execute a fail-safe exit for 0.17 R profit. So really not anything, just a little bit of profit. And then afterwards, I exited about here on a 30-second time frame. Right after the 10-minute close, price pushed up a little bit to about break even for me, and then started to retrace. And then retraced down to my 1-to-1 target, kind of tapped it there, saw data below it, and then pushed back up. Not really a great way to lock in 1R at this perspective yet. It's kind of just, you need it to push a little bit further. So yeah, the likely, if I didn't close with this fail-safe exit, it would have tapped my 1-to-1, reversed from there, and then I'd still be holding this trade, waiting for it to really push into the 1-to-1 area, and eventually would have broke right here on the 10-minute time frame and broke the 10-minute 50 again. And at that point, I probably would have executed a fail-safe exit. And if I didn't execute a fail-safe exit at that point, then I likely would have been at break even at P2 when price pushed to my 1-to-1, clipping this high, and I would have been taken out for just a completely break even. no profit on this trade. So potentially a tad early of an exit, but likely would have netted a similar result even if I held the trade for a few hours. So what's interesting though is that these other euro pairs, like euro yen here, this trade at the time I took euro CAD didn't have an entry. Price had already kind of pushed to my target. Like it was sitting here when euro CAD was up here for an entry. And then while I was in euro CAD, this pulled back to the entry level, gave an entry, and then continued back to the target again. For me, though, when price, instead of pulling back, instead pushes to my target, I'm no longer interested in taking the trade when it pulls back to value to then hit that same target a second time. Usually the probability of it hitting it the second time is much lower. But the fascinating thing about this trade is it pushed a target, pulled back, gave an entry, pushed a target, pulled back, gave an entry, and damn near pushed a target again. So, I mean, you had multiple different trades here. It pretty much traded within a range. So if you traded ranges and you just trade the extremes, there's, 1, 2, 3, 4 or so trades in this one pair last night. But for me, it would have been written, if I was not in EuroCAD, I would have written it off as soon as it already touched my target. I wouldn't even have really entertained taking it here, but still interesting to see that it played out. Euro pound was another trade. It gave an entry roughly about the time that I closed my EuroCAD trade. But in my mind, I'm already taking one shot at my euro bias, essentially, with my euro CAD trade. So I didn't really want to take a second shot at that bias on another euro pair, but this was a valid trade. So it's potential. I potentially could have. And this trade would have played out for, 1.4, 1.5 hour or so, I imagine. And then euro Singapore, it didn't pull back until much later in the day, so kind of invalid. And then euro Aussie had a little bit of a pullback here, but still wasn't really entertaining that one. These two kind of WTF plays I was waiting for, instead of them pushing to the levels, they immediately started kind of pulling back after we talked about the watch list yesterday. So there wasn't really much on either one of these. And then CAD PLN presented an entry roughly the same time that Euro CAD presented an entry. And since Euro CAD was my preferred pair, I took that one. Euro CAD didn't really play out for a lot of profit, but this CAD PLN would have played out for essentially target, roughly. I imagine if you throw in something in here, target there. Yeah. So if not for 2R, for somewhere like 1.7, 1.8, depending on how you sized it. But it did play out. But I did pay attention to the spread on CAD PLN. And from an Asia standpoint, when the entry occurred, it wasn't really tradable. But during London and New York, it was a tradable pair for me. The spread was almost negligible during London, once London started to kick in, which is interesting. Either way, that was my session, and I'm going to go build the watch list for the upcoming session, and I will be back with you guys here in a bit. What's up? And we're back. I don't have a lot, to be honest with you guys, for tonight's session. I have this knock group that it's something. It's better than really anything else I was able to find. This cat knock is probably the best out of all of these. They're all kind of IBOs, but they've already hit the target and retraced. And they're already kind of like been trending running. So they're weird. they're not great. Like this price action wise on dollar NOK doesn't look fantastic. Price action on euro NOK, like there's potentially something here, but you'd have to enter it right now. And I don't think it's developed enough to enter. Then you have CAD NOK, which at least it's holding this kind of horizontal level, you know, support, resistance, coming back, potentially support, right? So out of all of the NOKs, I think CAD NOK is the nicest. You have this triple bottom on a daily time frame. You have these two bullish candles off of that, right? So you've pushed off of that triple bottom, which is interesting. But prices on the 1 hour has kind of already been trending. You know, it's not just like a smooth up coming back for a retest and then looking for that wave 3 follow through. Like the wave theory almost doesn't really fit. Like it sort of does, but it sort of doesn't. And then on your 4 hour, you could just say this is a pullback of the 4 hour 50 and then a retracement back down to retest the lows again. So it's not perfect. Like there's things about it that look okay and there's things about it that don't. But of everything that I was able to scan, I think CAD NOK is the nicest option that there is for tonight's session. With that said, this may just be a night that I take the night off. So I don't foresee myself being comfortable to take Euro NOK, Dollar NOK, or really Pound NOK. The only one I'd really entertain is this CAD NOK. To take it, I'd have to enter it right now, but I can't enter it right now since the spreads are so astronomically large. Granted, we have 11 minutes or so of market rollover the first hour before spreads will come down, but if I remember correctly, I can only trade this pair during London, so likely this entry will occur during Asia, so I won't be able to trade it. But I think this is the best option for the day, but it still has some problems. And then there's this dollar Swiss from a non-exotics perspective. It doesn't necessarily fit a strategy. Like most of this is kind of just discretionary, right? Daily wise, there's not really anything here. It's just sideways price action. 4 hour wise, not really much of anything here either. Your 1 hour, you can draw on this trend line. You do have a break of that trend. You have a slight lower low here. You do have some EMAs that potentially could act as resistance, but they weren't really respected recently right here, right? I've not been respected a lot over here either, so my confidence in that is low. I like to see the EMAs recently respected to know that I have a decent kind of level to protect a stop behind, right? So yeah, I think it's an option, but I don't think it's great either, and it doesn't really fit any of the strategies I trade. It's discretionary. It's just a discretionary trade. So yeah. As far as stuff on development, the number one thing is this Aussie Kiwi. I mean, this pair is still, has this nice kind of run here on your 4 hour, a little trend on your 1 hour. A break of this midday and a retest could be a potential trade, hence why I flagged it orange to keep an eye on it, to come periodically check it, see what happens. Still waiting to see what happens with the rest of these Kiwis, though. But I don't think any of them are ready for trades right now. And then keeping an eye on some Swiss trades as well, but I don't think any of them are really ready. A break up or a break lower, either way, preferably up on this pound Swiss, though, could be a nicer trade come tomorrow, right? I'm still waiting to see what happens here on pound CAD. Just have a lot of sideways, price action. And then dollar Mexican, so we'll just kind of wait and see what happens when price eventually gets back down to this level. That's really all I got. I mean, if we go to my overall, this is the list of pairs that I scan when I'm going to make a watch list. So I'm going to have a whole exotic group, and then I have my majors and my minors, and then I have separated out the dollar and CADs. But when you go through and just quickly scan, like you have a good amount of just sideways price action. You don't have anything that, I mean, I considered this Kiwi dollar trade, right? But this was on watch earlier in the week for this initial break to play that IBO. I mean, there's a pullback here, now break up again. So this is like a second shot potentially at an IBO, but I don't really like these second shot trades. Like if I'm going to take this, I want it to be the first kind of opportunity and shot at it. Because again, the probability just starts to go down with the more you take these second chance ones. Taking this trade to me feels like forcing a trade versus this first shot at it feels like following a strategy, essentially. Dollar CAD, not a lot here, kind of similar to that Kiwi CAD, right? And then there's this dollar Swiss we've talked about. Dollar yen, just more sideways, choppy price action. Aussie CAD, more sideways price action. So that's really the theme here. It's a lot of choppy sideways price action. No really clear direction one way or the other. And just at this point, it's kind of like sitting on our hands and waiting for some things to develop, some breakouts to happen. I hadn't really seen any great opportunities either to try and take some WTF style plays. I tried to look for some potential ABOs. I still have an alert set for this pound Aussie though, seeing what happens at this, S1 horizontal level and the daily 54-hour 200. Might have potential, but I liked it a lot more yesterday when price was kind of just running here. I would have much preferred it just to run, hit this level, and then trade it. Because essentially what I was looking to trade was this pop right here. So it becomes now less attractive now that this pop has already happened and price is coming back down again. We can still get a bounce, but it could just break the level too. The probability of getting a bounce is a lot higher when price just runs, and then hits a level. Like it's got to have a pullback at some point. So that's a good point for it to have a pullback and then a continuation. So yeah, I don't know. I left my alert set there because the levels still line up just to see what happens. Give myself maybe an option, but likely will not be trading tonight. And if there is a trade that I take, it's probably going to be that CAD knock, but it'd have to pretty much still continue sideways for the next 8 hours, 8-9 hours. And at that point, I don't think price action wise, I'm going to want to take it. Yeah. Just a lot of kind of choppy sideways price action, a lot of indecision about which direction we want to go. So yeah, that's all I got. So it's likely going to be a no trade kind of night for me. Might just take the night off and go train some jiu-jitsu with the boys and get back at it tomorrow. Either way, that's all I've got, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. See you.